All righty, well, we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Chandria Davis. I'm with the Parent Services Department. I do have my colleague on the line, Veronica Orozco. She is here. Just a little bit about the both of us before we get started. We won't take up too much of your time. We do want to be mindful of everyone's time this afternoon and provide an opportunity for if there's any questions. But Veronica and I have been in the department for about 7+ years. Between the two of us, we serve about 120 schools within the district, and that is for all things truancy as well as attendance improvement strategies that we can provide support with to our schools and our families. So I work with the Central Network. This is my first year actually working with this network. Previously, or currently, I should say, I still work with a lot of the North schools, and I was gracious and luckily enough to be provided the opportunity to work with the Central Network this school year. So we'll go ahead and begin. We're going to talk a little bit about attendance matters. We always believe in our district that attendance matters for us, for our students, for our schools, for our families. And we want to talk all the time really about strategies to help improve student attendance, why attendance matters, not only just for the socialization of our students attending schools, but also for the academic benefits of attending school. So I'm not going to go through all of the agenda today, and we won't probably have time to hit everything. I hope this PowerPoint will be shared with you all, but we'll talk a little bit about the compulsory attendance law. Also, our main topic today, which is why attendance matters. We'll go over some facts about school attendance and our parent partners as well as our district partners. And lastly, what can we all do to improve student attendance? Next slide. So there's a picture of Veronica and myself, just so that you can kind of see the schools that we work with. We don't have to stay on this one long. Again, we serve about 120 something schools each between the two of us. Next slide. The Texas Compulsory Law. So just to clarify, the compulsory law applies to students that are enrolled in any school throughout the state of Texas. And essentially it states that students that have been enrolled in school are required to attend school each and every day throughout the entire day of instruction. It goes on to state that if a student accumulates 10 or more unexcused absences within a 6-month window, that's when a truancy case can be filed. Of course, Dallas ISD did not file any truancy cases last school year, and also with this school year, understanding that our families, as well as ourselves, we are still experiencing some challenges. So we definitely don't want to move forward with any type of truancy cases. We'd much rather work with our students and our families at the campus level prior to filing any type of cases. So that's the compulsory law. Again, if your child has been voluntarily enrolled, they are required to be in school throughout the entire day of instruction. That also applies to pre-K and kinder students as well. Next slide. So let's get into the heart of our presentation today, which is why attendance matters. Next slide. So before we talk about why attendance matters, it's always important to understand exactly how we are defining good, great, and satisfactory, or even poor attendance. We cited some of the information from Attendance Works, which is a nonprofit organization, which they really partner with a lot of school districts throughout our entire city, throughout our state, as well as nationally, to kind of help provide supports for improving student attendance. So when we're talking about what's satisfactory or decent or good attendance, we're looking at students that have 9 or less absences for the whole school year. Now that's excused and unexcused. Between 10 and 17, those students are starting to exhibit warning signs for potential attendance issues. Again, this is excused and unexcused students or student absences. And students that have 18 or more unexcused and excused absences, those students now kind of fall within the category of having chronic attendance issues. So understanding that we have students that have doctor's appointments, we have students that have just dental appointments that they have to attend, that those appointments are scheduled routinely. Obviously, we would encourage our families to try to schedule all of your appointments after hours. Try to schedule your appointments as late as possible throughout the instructional day. That way you're not pulling your student out from class. In any event, if you do have to pull your student out of school, communicate with the teacher, communicate with the school, but most importantly, communicate with that classroom teacher, because you want to know if your student is missing out on any quality instruction, and if so, what can be done to make up the work that's been missed. Find out if there's any after school or before tutoring that perhaps your child can attend, just so that the teacher is aware that the appointments will be ongoing and that you are willing to be an active participant in your child's education. So the breaks or the absences that we have listed here, starting between the 9 or less, understand that that's going to be for the entire school year. Again, this is attendance works, and this is how they're defining satisfactory, warning, as well as chronic absences. And we follow this same model. And when we're sending out our warning letters for truancy, we're usually trying to notify our families after between the 9 and fewer category. Next slide. So let's go a little bit deeper into why attendance matters. So I talked a little bit about excused and unexcused on the previous slide and how we're looking at both of those absences when we're talking about attendance. So most importantly, remember, excused and unexcused absences result in that loss of instructional time. So that opens up a whole nother set of issues that could potentially happen for your students, such as attendance for credit, where they would have to make up the work that they lost. Also, chronic absenteeism can lead to frustration for the students. We found that, particularly last year when our students were remote, that our students were having a hard time. And even now with them returning to school this year, we're seeing the outcome of them missing school and missing interacting with their peers. And so that's something that we're going to continue to see the fallout over the next couple of years. And hopefully, if you're monitoring your student and you're paying attention to some of their behaviors and their habits, you will see that social interaction is important. Attending school is important. And also with attending school regularly, it helps students to just feel better about themselves and school, and developing all of those great social and emotional skills that are needed. Research shows that students who are attending school regularly are likely to graduate. We find that students starting in grade levels, in the third grade level, when their attendance is great, when they are attending school routinely, typically students that have great attendance on the elementary side will carry that on through middle school and high school. So it's so critical for our parents to have those conversations with our students early about how important student attendance is to you as a family. Next slide. So we'll talk a little bit about some facts about school attendance. The first one is excessive absences in the first month of school can predict poor attendance throughout the year. And I talked just about that as far as the grade levels, third grade, and how we monitor that grade level to kind of see as far as different indicators, as far as reading at grade level, as well as their attendance indicators for the future of their time frame within our school district. Also, over 8 million students within our United States miss nearly 1 month of school. That is a lot of students that are missing school. So Dallas ISD is not just experiencing attendance issues, it is all throughout our state as well as nationally. And then also when students improve their attendance, they improve their academics prospects. And that's just something, if we're all honest, if we kind of look back over our life, we're able to see when we were in school, how attending school daily, participating in school, being active in school, and our teachers participating and keeping an eye on us and encouraging us, as well as our counselors and our administrators taking an active interest in our academic success, it helped to play a great role in our life. Next slide. A couple of more facts about school attendance. Chronic absenteeism often can be an early indicator of potential dropouts. So what we know is that when students are not attending school routinely, usually we will start to see not only students losing credit, they will also start to fail some of their classes. They will also start to pull away from their peers. And so when that happens, students start to kind of isolate themselves. And then other factors can start appearing in their life and temptations that will cause them to say, you know what, school is not as important. So maybe I can go work. Maybe I don't need to attend school throughout the day. Maybe I can skip. So when we're seeing those absences that are occurring at the beginning of the year, if that behavior doesn't change, it's going to kind of follow some of the students throughout the whole year, which is why it's super important that we have these conversations about attendance, even at home, at school, and all throughout the year. So we'll kind of skip to the next slide real quick. So I want to talk a little bit about within the last few minutes that I have, what can we all do to improve attendance? Next slide, thank you. So parent partners. So it's important for us as a school district. Within our department, we talk about it a lot because it's important for us to remind ourselves that our parents are very critical. Our parents are just an important stakeholder within this system that we call education. They are important to the schools that the students attend. They are important within their household because they set the standards. They have to have those conversations early with promoting attendance and how important it is. They have to set that expectation for the students, for their children. We have to have those conversations super early. You know, there are times when you are at home and maybe your child is saying, I don't really feel good. I don't want to go to school. And you as a parent, it's your determination to decide, of course, if your child doesn't have a fever, if they can and can't go to school, because sometimes it's just they want to stay home. And so we have to be that nudge to encourage them that school is important. We want more for them. We want them to strive for more. And in order to do that, that starts with being successful and attending school daily. Next slide. Also, it's important for parents to understand, and this is a little bit on the truancy side of things, is that beyond delivering children to school, you know, our families play an essential role in identifying in the school or community what the barriers are to attendance. So parents, make sure you're monitoring your students' social media, make sure you are looking at parent portal, make sure that you are communicating with the school, make sure that you're paying attention to your child and their behaviors, because if you notice any changes in their behavior, communicate not only with your child, but try to communicate with the school as early as possible to determine what type of resources that are available so that we can provide supports to you and your family. Make sure that you're maintaining constant communication to your school as well as to the counselor, to the teachers, and the administrators as often as possible. Next slide. And as far as Dallas ISD, we do have several departments that are available to support from the central office standpoint. My department is the Parent Services Department. We are always available to help families to understand student attendance, to serve as a liaison, to provide resources and supports to you. Also within our schools, our principals, our counselors, our teachers, they are available to be the frontline heroes to serve you immediately. So if there's any questions or concerns as it relates to attendance, start there. And if you need additional help, you can always contact our department as well as submit a Let's Talk concern, which you can find on the district's main site. Next slide. So in closing, I do want to just encourage you all. Our slogan this year is show up, attendance matters. It always matters. Attendance is super important. Please always remember that without attendance, we cannot have our students to be successful. You have to have attendance as well as academic success. Those go hand in hand. So students cannot learn what they are not there to learn. So families, please be reminded to always encourage your students to show up. You need to show up for your students and communicate with the school if you have questions or concerns, and we can partner together to improve their attendance. Thank you all.